Greetings and salutations. My name is Quentin Rios, and today I will be creating my negative construction against my opponent, Christian Taylor. For starters, Christian Taylor stated that the extraction of helium-3 on lunar surfaces can drastically lower carbon emissions in the US. This can be done through nuclear fusion reactors on the surface of the moon. I'm going to start by stating the definition of what nuclear fusion is. It is a process that powers the sun and stars. The idea is simple. If two hydrogen nuclei approach each other quickly enough, they will fuse together. Depending on the isotopes involved, the output consists of helium and some neurons and a lot of energy. Unlike my colleague Christian, I want to highlight the fact that it requires a lot of energy. So much so that for fusion to occur on Earth, you need a temperature of at least 100 million degrees Celsius. To put that in perspective, that is 6 times higher than the surface of the sun. Not only does nuclear reactors require a lot of energy, it is still experimental. In fact, Steve Coley states, fusion is an experimental technology for producing power. It is expensive research that can only be done at large scales. This is not to say that there have been attempts to utilize a nuclear reactor, fusion reactor, Recently in 2010, there was discussion for ITER, which is a multi-billion-dollar notion to establish an international nuclear fusion reactor. I'm going to argue that it is not cost effective to establish a nuclear fusion reactor. In fact, construction alone of this one site is valued at $17 billion. And it is not estimated to go online until 2026. In the meantime, we could harness solar wind power and sunlight. Nevertheless, the establishment or transition of nuclear fusion would put a mature industry of carbon out of jobs. Carbon is found in coal, and coal is an abundant supply concentrated in industrialized countries like the US, Russia, China, and India. Coal is relatively inexpensive. It provides continuous power, good utilization, and high load factor. So much so that coal is a mature industry and substantial existing infrastructure. Unlike nuclear fusion, there is no infrastructure yet established, and creating infrastructure would be highly expensive. There has been recent studies that we can lower carbon emissions and create clean coal with CCS and various scrubbers. It can be converted into liquid or gas, which will burn cleaner. In fact, this technology is currently being used in China. China states that no doubt the least destructive form of clean coal is underground coal gasification. For starters, this is where coal is left in the ground and converted to gas by chemical means and then sucked up into the surface where it is burned. This provides cleaner alternatives that are less cost effective than the idea of nuclear fusion and extraction of helium-3 on the surface of the moon. So much so that the US has adopted this type of extraction. The Texas Clean Energy Project outside of Odessa, which receives $450 million in DO funding, will capture 90% of the CO2 and then use that CO2 for enhancing oil recovery in nearby Bermuda oil basins. This approach eliminates most problems associated with coal mining, transportation, burning, and leaves only problems associated with sequestration and gas extraction to be grappled with. Basically, this is the most cost-effective way to power the United States and the world. I state the world because 70% of China's electric grid is powered by coal, and there's no signs of going down. Together, the US and China are responsible for more than 33% of the greenhouse gas emissions. If we were to switch to coal, I will argue that the US will remain on top. Christian Taylor states that conversion to nuclear fusion reactor can provide limitless energy to the United States. But as I stated earlier, this will take a long time. And in the meantime, China will outproduce us and our economy will diminish. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.